It is a huge honor today to be interviewing Dr. Vish Banthia, who's a plastic surgeon. He's an MD and a plastic surgeon in Beverly Hills. He's probably looking at me like right now at my face and saying, I don't even know where to start on this guy. Would you just take me to a vet and put me down, or would you actually try some type of heroic procedure on my 53-year-old face? I was,
Well,
you
go
what?
ahead.
Go ahead.
I won't answer that question.
You want to answer that question? You were referred to me by the editor of our magazine, Dr. Tom Giacobbe. He said, Howard, you should interview Vish, Dr. Banthia, sorry, Dr. Vish Banthia. He goes, Tom says, you have a really interesting new concept. And he thought my podcast was about interviewing doctors who have neat stories to tell. And so tell me, well, first of all, tell us about yourself. You're a double board certified surgeon, a graduate of Stanford. You're a plastic surgeon and an ENT. Tell us about yourself and tell us how you got into ZendyHealth.com.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I'm double board. I'm double board certified, and I trained in head and neck surgery, ENT head and neck surgery, and also in facial plastic and reconstructive surgery. And I've been in practice for a little over 10 years. And basically, I came up with the concept of ZendyHealth based on the issues and pains that I saw from both the patient side as well as the provider side, and essentially came up with this concept that provides it's a win-win type of solution for both patients as well as doctors.
Which is a kind of like, is it kind of like a Priceline.com for
Yeah.
elective medical procedures?
Yeah, essentially what we're doing is, in my experiences, whether it's for cosmetic surgery like a facelift or whether it's for something that's medically necessary, I see patients struggling to pay their medical bills all the time. And essentially, this is especially true when patients have a bill through their medical insurance because they don't know what the price tag is in the first place, and they get stuck with a bill that they can't understand, 6 weeks later or several months later, and they're negotiating their fees. And so, kind of like the Priceline Negotiator, ZendyHealth is a healthcare marketplace where patients can name their own price, or in our case, pick their own price for standardized health and dental procedures and get matched to top quality providers near them. And providers we're seeing are accepting these offers, these patient offers, because they have cancellations, last minute cancellations all the time, and would prefer upfront cash as opposed to dealing with the hassles of insurance billing. As a physician myself, I'm on several insurance plans, and I have to pay my biller X percentage for collections, and sometimes I get my reimbursement 6 months after the fact, or sometimes I don't even get my reimbursement, and sometimes I get a check for 25 cents or zero. So, sometimes it's actually favorable to just collect upfront cash, just like every other industry does, and every other merchant does, for the most part.
I think Milton Friedman said it the best. He said the most efficient way to spend money is when you spend your own money on yourself.
That's
And then
correct.
and then it gets less efficient when you spend your money buying something for someone else. And then when you spend other people's money for other people's stuff, which is an insurance company, they're paying other people's money for other people's stuff. He says that's the worst economic payment mechanism on earth, and that just explained the entire healthcare industry.
That's correct, and I think you're correct. I'm not a policy expert, but what I've seen from all the research, the healthcare costs kind of spiraled out of control ever since the third party mechanism was implemented. But that's a controversial area.
Well, I
And
mean,
that's
in 1900, it was 1% of the GDP was healthcare. By 2000, it was 12%. So it
yeah,
went from 1 to 12 in a century, and now it's past 17%. I mean,
yeah.
at the rate it's going, and another 30 years, it'll be a third of the entire economy, which is totally unsustainable. But so are you doing this for plastic surgery in Beverly Hills?
Well, I started the concept. So first of all, I think it's one thing to say that people can name their own price and bid on hotel rooms, and then it's another to say that people would actually name their own price or pick their own price on health-related procedures. So it's kind of a crazy type of concept. And so what I did was I actually implemented a model in my own real-life practice, a version of it, and saw some positive results, and then started a programmatic site, a watered down site that's similar to what we have right now to some extent, with just a narrow customer segment, which was just focusing on cosmetic procedures like Botox and laser hair removal and fillers. And lo and behold, we saw patients placing bids or offers for these types of routine procedures, and we saw providers actually registering and signing up with us and accepting these offers, which was, it's interesting. We saw that the behavior of patients was changing to some extent in this field in terms of delivery of health-related services, and because of that finding, we expanded this to dental services as well as health-related procedures like MRI scans, CT scans, which can be very, very expensive. And I think the patients are now feeling that pain because of the increased out-of-pocket costs that we're experiencing with high deductibles and co-insurances and whatnot.
So what? Right now you're talking to 7,000 dentists, so it's all dentists.
Yeah.
So,
Got it.
very few of them do Botox, dermafills. Maybe
Sure.
but it's starting maybe 1%. But what dental, first of all, what dental procedures and what states are dentists doing this currently?
Well, we have dentists from a variety of states, mostly in California right now. And keep in mind, we have a strong team of medical and oral surgery, dental folks on the system, where we did a lot of research in terms of talking to the right folks in different fields, and to get their input and their feedback on what we're doing. Because obviously, some would consider this controversial, and clearly people are concerned about the quality of care. And for the most part, we knock on wood, we haven't had any complications, which is great. Now, basically, as I said, we have dentists in California and elsewhere. Some of the services are just essentially standardized services like teeth cleaning, laser teeth whitening, Invisalign, and what else do we have? We have tooth extraction and dental implants. And now, obviously, there's always variations with every kinds of procedures. But what we did was basically we came up with standardized way of creating content and standardized ways of implementing procedural offerings. We know that with MRI scans or CT scans, there's always some kind of variation that you can think of, right? Some patients might need a 3.0 Tesla. For about 90% of the time, people will do just fine with a 1.5 Tesla, MRI scanner. So there are ways to creating standardized ways to present procedures and content, and that's what we've tried to do here.
So now you're mostly a California play.
Well, we have providers in about 60 or 70 cities outside of California. And we're rapidly expanding at this point, given our media exposure and given the fact that people are finding us organically at this point.
Yeah.
But correct. Yeah, I would say the highest concentration of our providers, though, from a dentistry perspective, is in California. That's correct.
Do you have any of them talked about it on Dental Town? Or would they not want them to talk about it on Dental Town? I mean, is it one of those deals where if they found something good, they don't want anybody to know about it, or is it something they would help you out and get on the message boards and talk about it, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think they would. We could certainly.
Do you know if I know any of them? Do you know that?
Well, I'd have to ask and get their permission, and I'm sure they'd be happy to. We have doctors in a variety of specialties who are wanting to talk to the press and talk to the media on our behalf because they see it work for them. We actually have investors who are actual providers onto our system, so I don't see any issues for. I can't imagine that dentists would think otherwise. So we can certainly reach out and ask them to see if they feel comfortable coming on Dental Town, and certainly can pass on that information.
Yeah. So what do you want to tell these dentists? You got 7,000 dentists driving to work, commuting right now, listening to you.
Sure.
What do you want them to know?
Yeah. So essentially, what we do is we essentially help fill the gaps and the holes in people's schedule. And in my practice, I had nurses and estheticians, and whenever we had empty slots or openings in our schedule, that translates into a massive overhead sunk cost. So if you do the math, at least for me out in Los Angeles, every hour of empty space or empty slots translates into tens of thousands of dollars of overhead sunk costs. which I find is incredibly unacceptable. And so the concept is pretty simple. Would you rather take 100% of nothing with an empty slot, or would you rather take 60% of something? And
And I might add, being a dentist, when I talk to people on the street, one of the biggest problems they have is an emergency. They'll have an
yeah,
emergency and they can't get into a dental office. So
yeah,
you're talking about, here's people that have an empty space,
yep.
and here's people that have an emergency and they just want to be seen right now, and they'll drive clear across Phoenix to be seen today.
That's interesting because we've had quite a few cash offers for tooth extraction, and for the most part, the dentists feel they're very, very reasonable offers. These are, $350 or $400 offerings for a single tooth extraction, which most of the dentists out here in California find profitable.
Yeah, it's profitable. And in my 28 years as being a dentist in Phoenix, I can convert by talking to them and meeting
Yeah,
them. I can convert 3 out of 4 to changing their mind and saving it with a root canal and a crown. So there's
yeah,
an upsell where you can get them in for a low price extraction. And then if you've got the personality and the charisma and the leadership, you can say, come on, dude, you're only born with
yeah,
these teeth. You're not going to get
yeah,
another one.
yeah.
Let's,
The thing is, the whole premise of the site is, hey, we're bringing a very, very highly qualified lead, somebody who actually wants and needs a service at a particular price point that they can afford. And what we're seeing is that every transaction has resulted in our profit. For example, I'll give you an example on the cosmetic side. We've had patients request oral therapy, which is non-surgical facelift, and some of these guys in our system are able to convert those oral therapy consultations into facelift consultations. So now all of a sudden they just got a lead for free. So the cost of acquisition of that patient was zero, and now they're all of a sudden they're turning that into a $12,000 facelift. As a dentist, I'm sure people need more than just one teeth cleaning. They're going to probably come back to you. They might need some other things. A lot of people are interested in Invisalign and straightening their teeth out, or veneers or whatnot. And so, the reality is, just like any other business, the name of the game is to bring people in the door. Have them have them become aware of your services and what your practice is about, and that's essentially the concept.
and so you've done ENT and plastic surgery.
That's
Which one do
correct.
you like better, and why?
Oh boy, that's a tough question. When I was younger in my training, I liked doing those big head and neck cases where I spent 6 to 12 hours in the operating room. But
Wow.
now that I'm getting a little older and just had
Older,
a
you're 1 decade younger than me. I got a full decade on
it's
you.
getting harder to do those longer cases. So, but I enjoy operating. That's why I went to a surgical field. And so I like using my hands and working in an operating room. Although I can tell you that I'm not sure if this is as applicable to the dentist, but I think that the regulations as it relates to insurance companies and whatnot, it's becoming quite painful in terms of all the regulations that's being imposed on us as providers. And I'm sure the dentists feel that, although I know that a lot of dentists out here just flat out even don't take any insurance. So, but I'm
I
sure
know
that,
that's why it
yeah,
kind of surprised me, because when Tom Giacobbe, Dr. Giacobbe, the editor of Dental Time magazine, was telling me
yeah,
about your league, I thought, well, why would Dr. Banthia care? He's out there in Beverly Hills where they have nothing but money. Is that a bad misconception? Or some people
yeah.
say that rich people, that a fool and their money will soon be parted. And one of the biggest problems with the rich people is the reason they're rich is they don't part with their money.
I've worked in academic environments, HMO environments, and also in private practice. And I've worked in Silicon Valley and also in Beverly Hills. I have never come across anybody, whether they're rich or not so rich, where they weren't interested in being cost effective with their healthcare dollars. I don't, I'm sure there's that 1% of the population really doesn't care in terms of how much they money they have to pay for an MRI scan or a particular procedure, but I think for the majority of us, I think we're looking for ways to make smarter decisions with our finances. I know for a fact, like if I went out and played squash or tennis and twisted my knee, and if I had to get an MRI, it'd be tough to come up with $3,000 just right away. It's just not part of factoring into my budget in the immediate term.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Correct. So what if a dentist wants to participate? You're only in California. What if they're in the other 49 states? Should they go to ZendyHealth.com and check it out, or
Well,
should they?
it's interesting because we're getting organic patients in a variety of other states, including Arizona, Minnesota, Texas, and Florida, and a handful of other states as well. And people are finding us organically. So something's working in terms of our SEO strategy, apparently. And also, we're signing some contracts with some larger organizations in the next month or so. I can't disclose the names of them, but we'll be adding hundreds of thousands of patients in the near term. So dentists can be from any state. They can come to our site and register online and submit an application, and we have our dental team and medical advisory team review their applications. And as long as they meet certain requirements, then they're good to go.
All right. Well, I think I'm gonna do this just for morbid curiosity and see how it does. Do you know if you have anybody in Phoenix?
I'd have to check. I don't think we've I don't think so.
Well,
But
then
yeah,
I'm
we'd
going to
be
be the
happy to have you
first.
on
I'll
board.
I'll be the first. I think it's
Yeah.
I love these I love these new business models. I love these new things, and I think the trick with marketing is I've always said I do everything, then track it.
Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
everything, and if it doesn't work, then I stop doing it. If I do it and it works, and then I compare all my different marketing strategies to how much money I'm paying per head. And if Yellow Pages costs
Absolutely.
400 a head, and Google ads or Facebook ads cost 100 a head, you just or 1-800 dentist, you just move your money over.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's one of the reasons why we made the system this way. Because as a physician, I pay x hundreds of dollars for this marketing directory listing or that marketing directory listing. I won't go into names, but the ROI is always questionable, and it's very difficult to track all these things. And so, what we wanted to do is really present a more provider-friendly platform where we can get leads and patients coming in at a cost of acquisition of zero, where people are not paying subscription fees. Yeah, it's not perfect, but at least you're not hemorrhaging out, X hundreds of dollars per month without any exact concept of ROI on those.
So I'm sure everybody wants to know, how the hell did you get into Stanford? That's like the hardest university in America to get into. Stanford or MIT or Harvard. Was that pretty tough?
It was intense. First I went to a great high school out in Dallas, Texas, and it was a fantastic place. St. Mark's School of Texas really prepared me, and I learned how to think and write over there. So I think education from an early level, I don't think that can be underestimated at all. And so as I look to my daughter growing up, I know that we're going to be heavily focused on education, but really it's just pure grit. I don't think that I'm smarter than anybody else, but it was just pure grit and just getting things done, and just kind of cruising through the books and burning the midnight oil, so to speak.
Stanford told me the only way I'd get in is with a ski mask and a gun. And before I let you go, though, so the dentist would go to fill out an application. They go to ZendyHealth.com.
Yeah, there's a section that's for providers. They can also alternatively go to www.myzendy.com. That's once again www.myzendy.com.
And myzendy.com is for the providers, and Zendy Health is for the consumers.
Yeah, it's just a redirect to our page that's for the providers. But you can get to even if you go to zendyhealth.com, you can get to the.
So if you're a dentist and you want more new patients and you want to fill some holes, you would go to www.myzendy.com, Zendy. And
MyZendy. Hmm.
and is Zen, when I think of Zen, I think of the one of the first books. I went to Creighton, a Catholic school, and the first Jesuit I met said, "Oh my God, you got to read this book, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance."
Yes.
Did you also read that book? Is that where the name Zen came from, Zendy?
Well, I've also heard of that book. I haven't read it, unfortunately. I should have. Zendy was just it's just a fun name. We had a lot of startups come out with the first letter Z. Zillow, ZocDoc, Zeal, and it's something that's memorable. A lot of patients remember the name, and it's just kind of a fun name. But yeah, we'd like to think that we put the Zen back in healthcare.
Does it cost anything for the dentist to sign up?
No, it's free.
So then what do what do my homies have to lose by checking this out?
Uh, I don't know. It's not. I mean, I hate to say a no-brainer. I don't like using the word no-brainer, but essentially, there's no cost to the providers. What we'll do, though, after our initial period, we will likely have a subscription model for those people who register after our initial period. But for everybody who signs up in our early phase and our initial phases, they're grandfathered into a complimentary service where they can not only get some exposure with their websites by getting a directory listing, but also getting access to our cash-paying patients in our marketplace.
And remember, homies, you heard it first on my podcast. Don't forget that. And so they have nothing to lose. They'll fill out an application if they get accepted. So how do you weed out bad doctors, license taken away? How do you know
Yeah.
it's a quality provider?
Well, our dental slash oral surgery advisor actually reviews those applications. We've had to turn away some doctors. Some are just don't have a license to practice, and ironically, they're practicing. And some physicians that are on the medical side, the MD side, are not board certified. So we don't, unfortunately, we can't accept those. But there's also some folks. We look at some consumer rating sites, and those guys who kind of have like the worst horrible reviews, like 1-star reviews across the board. It's going to be really tough to bring them on.
What if they went to dental school at USC or UCLA, which really isn't even accredited?
Is that right?
I'm just trying to jab some of my buddies.
Oh, got it.
If they're commuting to work, they probably just drove off the bridge. And
Yeah.
so they have nothing to lose. They'll go to myzendy.com, they'll fill it out, and then what do? They put prices in for the 5 things you talked about, which is a cleaning, a whitening, Invisalign, an extraction, and an implant.
Well, they just marked. Well, first of all, just to clarify, they have to go to www.myzendy.com.
Right.
So if they go to myzendy.com, it may not redirect properly. So it's www.myzendy.com.
Okay.
And they just register, and they indicate the procedures they want to get notifications for, like teeth cleaning, teeth whitening, tooth extraction, dental implants, and whatnot. We've had some requests from dentists to add veneers and other types of procedures. Interestingly enough, we have other specialists like GI specialists and colorectal surgeons wanting to add, colonoscopies, and urologists wanting to add a vasectomy. So we have to be really judicious and methodical about what we can add, and see what the patients are looking for, and how to balance.
Who's your head dentist? Do you have a head dentist or a lead dentist?
We do, and
you said it's an oral surgeon?
That's correct.
Can you say his name, or would you rather not?
Yeah, no, I'm happy. His name is Dr. Tim Silegy.
Tim Silegy. How do you spell Silegy?
Silegy.
Silegy.
Yeah.
My podcasts are usually an hour, and you're a ENT plastic surgeon, and everybody in my audience is only dentistry. So now we've met the founder. You've talked about the concept. They know you're a smart guy. And then Tim Silegy should come on and talk about specific how it's going in dental.
Absolutely.
All right. I think that would be great. And like I say, when I talk to dentists, I say, what if you kicked over a bottle and a genie popped out and you had 3 wishes, what would it be? One of them is that they could replace all their staff with droids. From Star Wars, never have to deal with overtime and
that's not just for dentists. That's for, I think, every physician out there.
So 1, they'd replace all their staff with droids. Number 2, they want new patients, because new patient flow is cash flow, and if you don't have any new patients walking the door, it's hard to pay the bills, the light, the mortgage, the rent. So this is what got Tom Giacobbe excited.
Sure. The interesting thing, the dentists were really smart, because they actually did research into this, and they found out what the lifetime value of each patient was. Whereas the plastic surgeons and the MDs didn't really do anything like this in terms of a cost analysis or a mathematical analysis. But for every patient that comes in, on average, you're talking about at least $1,500 of LTV there. So. Most doctors, like plastic surgeons I speak with, they don't really do that analysis, which is unfortunate.
Hey, well, I still have you on the phone, and your credentials are amazing. I got out of dental school 28 years ago when you're an ENT, where most all oral cancer was coming from smoking and drinking, and it was pack history, and it was mostly 60-year-old people who, when you met them, you almost thought they were a chain smoking alcoholic.
Yeah.
But now we keep hearing about the human papillovirus. Has that changed oral cancer from what you've seen in your field?
Yeah, I think we have younger patients now who are non-smokers, non-alcoholics, developing the cancer, and so I think we're seeing an increased rate of that. And the behavior of these cancers is also different than the typical patient that you were describing.
And how is the behavior of the cancer different?
Well, studies show that the success rate for these types of treatments are actually quite good when it comes to HPV positive cancers, and so that's actually a favorable factor, favorable prognosis there.
Do you treat them the same? Are they both getting surgery and chemo?
It depends. For the smaller cancers, for the smaller ones, then surgery might be an option. But clearly, if there's neck disease, then you have to consider other options and give options to the patient.
Very interesting. So anything else you want to add, Doc?
No, I'm very pleased and excited about being on the show, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, hey, you should be thanking Tom Giacobbe. He's the one who served up the lead for me. And by the way, homies, if you have a lead of someone that you think would be a great podcast interview, email me, howard@dentaltown.com. Dr. Vish Banthia, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. And another point is, if anybody wants to, I'm happy to talk to anybody. They can call me personally on my cell phone, and I can exchange that with you offline, and I'd be happy to talk to anybody about any questions. And
you want to say it online, or would you?
Sure. It's 917-721.
917-721.
4306.
4306. 917-721-4306.
Yeah, we're trying to find solutions for providers regardless of their specialties, and I'd love to hear people's feedback to see how we can make the system better.
So you're in such a famous Beverly Hills, California. I actually know your zip code, 90210. Did I get it?
90211 actually.
Oh, I thought the show was 90210. 90210, but it's 90211.
90211 is one of the zip codes there, but yeah, the more famous zip code is 90210.
Okay. Well, hey, Doc, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great day.
Okay, take care.
It is a huge honor today to be podcast interviewing an oral and maxillofacial surgeon, Dr. Tim Silegy. How are you doing, Tim?
I'm doing fantastic, Howard, and I must say I'm quite impressed that you could completely pronounce the name of the specialty without stuttering or stammering.
The oral and maxillofacial surgery?
Absolutely.
The Tom Silegy was the easy part. It was the OMFS. It's you guys are rare, and you guys are always busy. I mean, trying to get an oral surgeon to do a podcast interview is like pulling teeth, no pun intended.
It's not quite that difficult, right?
No, it's very difficult. I haven't had that many oral surgeons. I mean, they're rare. They're very rare. So thank you so much for your time. I know you're a busy guy, and this is something I haven't done before, where we did a 30-minute podcast with Dr. Vish Banthia, the founder of ZendyHealth. And then when he was telling me all about it, he was a plastic surgeon, and he was telling me all about it. And I said, well, who's your dental guy? And do you have a dental product champion? And he said, yeah, an oral maxillofacial surgeon. So I thought, my God, I want to end this at a half hour and start with you. So tell us, how did you meet Vish Banthia, and what are you doing with this ZendyHealth?
Well, I met Vish through social circles. His wife and mine are very, very close. And a couple of years ago, when he decided to try and move out of clinical practice and offer affordable health care for patients that, tended to help them and also provide a better living for himself and so on, I was really enamored with the concept of name your own price dentistry. And he had actually started it in the cosmetic industry, which was what he was familiar with. And I said, Vish, I think you could be very, very successful if you take the same concept to dentists. And he took heed and asked me to come on board as his dental director, and that's where we are now.
Well, growing up in Kansas, everyone always told us, even your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, that everything starts on the coast and it'll get to Kansas in about 10 years. And so it doesn't surprise me that you guys are both right on the Pacific Ocean. And are you in Beverly Hills too?
No, I'm down in Long Beach.
So you're the poor pauper oral surgeon.
Yeah, I'm where all the blue bloods live, I suppose.
All the blue blood. Well, you know, when I came to Phoenix, I specifically stayed in Phoenix because I thought, dude, you're from Kansas. You're not even the right type of person to be up in Scottsdale and Paradise Valley. And I mean, you know, you're that's not your tribe, and you probably won't connect with them. And I'm so glad. I mean, in fact, I'm across the street from the Guadalupe Indian Reservation, so 25% of my patients don't even speak English, and I actually have the most fun with them. I can
imagine. You know, it's funny. For a short period of time, I had another office down in Newport Beach, and you know, the difference just in the patient demographic was startling. You would think that the Newport Beach patient clientele would freely spend money on their oral health and you know, cosmetic procedures and so on, and it really wasn't the case. Our no-show rate was about 30%. Last-minute cancellations. Oh, my son has another thing they have to do today. Can we see you tomorrow? Just strange, because you think that would be a very, very great place to have a practice, and it is. But for me, I'm very, very happy here in Long Beach.
And it always seems that, you know, Albert Einstein said that intelligent people can't be happy, or geniuses can't be happy, or something to that effect, that the higher your IQ, the more you suffer from, you know, depression, things like that. But I swear, my patients from Guadalupe laugh and giggle the most. Mm-hmm. And it seems like, you know, you go there and, you know, they're very poor. And it seems like the patients of mine that come in from the rich part, the equestrian center, always seem to be the most stressed out of their mind.
Mm-hmm. That's true. I've done a fair amount of mission work in Latin America, and I find the same to be true. You know, you go to the top of a mountain and realize that people are born there and probably never leave that mountain, and they're the happiest. They really are.
Yeah, and I keep saying I'm going to write a book called The Giggle Factor, and the giggle factor, because when you go to a country like United States and Germany or Japan or Korea or Hong Kong, you know, you just almost never see anyone giggling, and then you go to like Tanzania, Ethiopia, or Nepal or Brazil or way out in the quote third world, and you just can't beat the smile off everyone's face. I mean,
yeah,
they're always giggling.
Joker in Batman, you know, why so serious? And it is fun. You know, we like to have a good time with our patients here and ascribe to that philosophy. So.
Well, you know, name your own price. I mean, I bet a lot of people are cringing. They're thinking, yeah, you know what, you know, this is just can't be a good idea. But you're an oral surgeon. I mean, do you have patients naming their own price on pulling a set of wisdom teeth or getting a dental implant and a crown?
Absolutely. Let me kind of tell you the process. I do a lot of lecturing nationally and internationally on dental implants. And I with general dentists in particular, I go through a whole explanation of profitability. And profitability, as you know, is a factor of your fee minus your cost. And I kind of usually end the seminar with that for a moment. And I said, but there's one more variable. And they all kind of look at themselves. I say, it's time. And I take that conversation with affordability and profitability and time and put it all together for them, so they realize that the worst thing, the biggest detractor success in your office is open chair time. And what Zendy allows dentists to do is have another tool to make sure their chairs are always busy, because it makes a lot more sense to be doing a crown for $500 than having that chair open for an hour where you don't get anything. And that's the beauty of the system.
So how long have you been doing ZendyHealth?
We've been actively seeing dental patients for about 3 months.
3 months. And are you an owner, or do you have any equity in this? Or are you?
I'm just you know, have stock options for the company, and have decided to help Vish out with the project, and you know, of course, reap the benefits of the patients that come my way as well.
And are you getting patients from this?
Oh yeah, definitely.
And like once a month, once a week. How's it? Tell us your experience, how this is working, because I love changing business models. I mean, I just love it. Like this merger between Dentsply and Sirona. I mean, I've been thinking about that for 100 hours. I mean, I just love how technology is just game changers, and we saw this with Name Your Own Price with who's that? William Shatner and
Priceline.com.
Yeah, I mean, they is that kind of what this is modeled after?
Definitely, yes.
Definitely. Well, we need to get William Shatner on here on a podcast.
I think so. I think the limitation now is it's still a very new concept, and we've made great progress in medicine in areas where patients have very, very high deductibles. So many people are excited about the Affordable Care Act because they now have insurance, but they don't realize that they have a pretty stiff deductible for a lot of different procedures, and particularly in the diagnostic realm. So you may be sent, for instance, say you have sinusitis and you need a CT scan of your sinuses, you may be sent to a hospital-based imaging center and be hit with a $1,500 deductible for that. Well, ZendyHealth has imaging centers as part of its treatment team, and you can go there and say, maybe pay $500-$600 for that CT scan or MRI. Don't even have to deal with the deductible at that point in time. So it's been very, very successful in that realm as well.
A lot of my complaints, when I was in college and I was laying around like, what's wrong with America? I'm so surprised at how some of the big game changers have been changed, like legalizing marijuana, for instance. I mean, I never thought they'd ever do that. Mm-hmm. And one of the other ones was I always thought it was anti-American that I couldn't go into one of these blood labs and order and have my own labs for cholesterol or whatever I'm measuring. I thought it was actually criminal that I had to go through the doctor's pay station racketeering and get a prescription for it. And Arizona just opened that up this year. Really? And it's only been open for a couple months. And now there's all these television ads during the Royals victory last night, during the Royals game, saying, come in here and we'll run something like a 25 blood test for $99. And then you can have 150 things tested for under $9.99 each. And I mean, that's how it should be.
Well, medicine and dentistry, for that matter, is becoming more and more consumer driven. As the public becomes more informed about different procedures and different illnesses and different tests. And that's kind of, again, the beauty of Zendy, because you know what you need. You now have the ability to kind of use the free market system to find a price that's affordable for you. And as I said, it's also affordable for the imaging centers and the doctors who are participating in the program.
So how long has the dental part been up?
About 3 months.
And what is it? Just like specific things you can bid on, or can you bid? I mean, can someone just say anything,
right now,
or is it more just specific?
Yeah, right now it's not really bidding as much as it is, offering your price. But we're still in development, and the model that we're following a lot is just with basic dental procedures, X-rays and cleanings. Name your price for something like that, because as you know, one patient that comes into a general dental office has the potential over the practice life of that patient, to be $2,000-$3,000. So we find that our dentists are much more willing to take a patient in at a very low fee for a basic cleaning and exam, because they know that the economic potential of that patient is very, very high. And a lot of dentists, I don't know how things are in your practice, but several of my colleagues spend thousands a month with postcard mailings to neighborhoods, direct mail campaigns, email campaigns, constantly doing search engine optimization for their websites and so on, all with the intention of bringing in new patients. So this is something that a dentist can do passively. And if you're looking at your schedule on Monday and your Thursday fell apart, you get a couple of emails for patients that want cleanings and exams or crowns or extractions. Boom, all of a sudden you've filled that chair time, and you have two distinct advantages. One, you're generating some income in that chair that would have otherwise been empty. And two, you're bringing on 2, 3, 4 potential patients that will be with you for the life of your practice.
Yeah, so I guess a lot of it depends on what type of dentist you are. I mean, if you come out of a large capitation PPO clinic where you're just kind of wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, you kind of got to make off each procedure because you don't have really the skill set of customers for life. But if if you have strong skills in case presentation, you might get someone in for a low-cost cleaning and x-ray and then present them a large treatment plan of thousands of dollars worth of stuff. So it would really make sense. But when I ask a dentist, what is your cost to get a new patient in? I mean, like I can tell you, mine are 300 a head for Yellow Pages, 100 a head from 1-800 dentist, 75 or 80 a head from a Google Plus ad, or but most all dentists don't know that number.
Mm-hmm. No, that's true, and that's what I find when I lecture about implants. Very few know what their most profitable procedure is. They don't fully even understand the concept of profit. It amazes me sometimes that they'll pay a $25 or $30 an hour assistant to sit through a catalog and try and find local for a dollar less a box. It just doesn't make sense. And dentists aren't always the best businessmen. So I think for those who don't have the acumen to even have much of a marketing scheme in their practice, this is a very, very good opportunity for them.
And what states? My son Ryan just printed out the list of countries that subscribe to this. He broke my heart right for the interview when I found out we only have one dentist listening to us in Kazakhstan.
Oh no!
But the good news is I should be able to double that. If I just get one more dentist, I can double my Kazakhstan influence. But how many states is this available in as of today? And today is the day after the World Series. The Kansas City Royals won the World Series. I went to UMKC Dental School in Kansas City. I have to plug my Royals.
That's great. I did my undergraduate work at Graceland University in Lamoni. So, in fact, last night I'm very good friends with the director of development there, and we were texting back and forth. I was definitely cheering for the Royals. The last time they won, I think I was in college. So
I know I was in dental school in Kansas City. I'm texting all my room classmates like, dude, can you believe that was 30 years ago that we were at the Royals parade?
Crazy, right?
Oh my God, I must be getting old, fat, and bald. I'm afraid to look in the mirror now.
Well, the only thing you can control is whether you're fat or not. So
if I lose weight, I'll still be old and bald. But
no, in terms of states, it's an internet-based application, right? So you just go to ZendyHealth.com and see who's there. It's a startup, so we're still working on expanding the amount of practitioners and getting the word out to them, and that's what I was going to mention earlier in terms of the demand that I see. Every time we have a podcast come out or an article's coming out here very shortly in Inc. magazine. Zendy was found to be like the fourth hottest startup company of the month by a different organization, 500 startups. And the more we get a little bit of the word out, we kind of tend to see a spike in activity. So it's just a matter of time until the general public really sees what's available there. And we're concentrating our efforts right now on signing up as many dentists and healthcare providers that we can. And I really think this is a fabulous way, especially now during the startup period. They're not charging dentists to become a partner, not a partner, but to be on the site. So it's a great way to be prepared to expand your practice.
Well, you should just never, I try to stay focused only on dentistry and avoid sex, religion, politics, violence, because those are such polarizing subjects. But, the reason I was so interested in listening to you is because it's a new business model in healthcare. It's high tech, it's the internet, because, healthcare was 1% of the U.S. GDP in 1900. And by 2000, it was 14%. Now it's only 2015, it's 17%. I mean, the healthcare expenditures of the 20 richest countries is just engulfing the whole economy. So things like this, I mean, these will have big play. I mean, half of the Americans don't have any dental insurance, and healthcare is too much money for over 100 million people. In fact, it reminds me of these political debates. When Obamacare did his Obamacare, all the Republicans were poo-pooing it and, this is crazy and blah, blah. But the overwhelming millions and millions and millions that signed up, they're kind of quiet about the issue. I mean, if anybody is saying Obamacare is a failure when so many tens of millions of people signed up, because what it shows is not that Obamacare is right or wrong. What it shows is that people are drowning from healthcare debts, and it's the number one cause of personal bankruptcy in the United States of America. So when I saw this new business model, I thought I want to jump on the story. I'm not endorsing it or unendorsing. I'm just saying anything that lowers costs in healthcare is going to get a lot of attention. That's probably why you got so much press attention in Inc. 500, because they're looking at, like who cares about a game app on an iPhone? Healthcare,
Right.
17 cents of every dollar. So you're in the real McCoy category. You know what I mean?
Well,
Journalists
absolutely, and
journalists will pick
it
that
goes
up.
the same way. I don't know how it is when you talk to your colleagues, but and speaking to my colleagues, everybody is their revenue has been down over the last several years, and they're all looking for opportunities to see new patients. And I'm a kind of a believer in a free market capitalistic society, and I think that's really what ZendyHealth does. It gives people control of their own health care and their own ability to pay for it. And it gives practitioners some of that control back too that insurance companies have taken away.
Did you read that article about my favorite economist called Lawyers, Dentists, and Lattes?
I didn't. Am I missing out on it?
Yeah, the American Dental Association has their own full-time economist to just do healthcare economics for dentistry. And he wrote a great piece called Lawyers, Dentists, and Lattes. And all economists, he had all kinds of citations and literature. But from the 2008 financial bust, the only three sectors that did not come back all the way were dentists, lawyers, and lattes. You're paying $5 for a cup of coffee. And so dentists have not fully recovered from the 2008 financial crisis, which is sad because this is 2015. So that's
Right.
7 years. And usually these economic cycles are usually about every 7 to 9 years. So we haven't even recovered yet. And there's not an analyst in America that doesn't think we're probably around the corner from another correction.
Right.
And dentists, lawyers, and lattes are saying, dude, we didn't recover from the last one. And
Yeah,
we could be going
exactly.
into another
You
one.
still see-
And the
you
last
still
one,
see-
2008, we had 100+ dental offices in Phoenix go under. I mean, in the Phoenix Valley, the Phoenix Metro.
New dental offices?
Dental offices. They were pretty much split in half. They were half of them were just brand new startups who thought they could just do direct mail and get the cash flow. And the other half were highly specialized, high-end cosmetic dentists, mostly in the Scottsdale Paradise Valley. So it was the young dentist who thought, yeah, I'll just go in a retail center, I'll just set up and I'll put up a website, do a couple direct mails, and I'll be off and running. And that did not work in the year 2008. All the new startups right then were crunched because direct mail quit working for several years. And then the high-end people who lost the ability to do a root canal or do a partial or treat a 3-year-old, we're just doing high-end, veneer cases and cosmetic $50,000 rehabs. Those $50,000 rehabs dried up. So a lot of them went under.
Well, the thing that's kind of sad about dentistry and the fact that it hasn't fully come back yet is that new dentists getting out of school are burdened with a significant amount of debt. And then the concept of them trying to start a practice in today's economic environment with the costs of construction or building out an office or purchasing an office, I've seen a definite change. You see more and more dentists going to corporate dentistry. You see more and more dentists bringing in the specialists into their own office to capture a little bit more of their revenue. And it really has had a pretty startling effect on dentistry. I agree.
So how many dentists do you have on this? And so far, do you know?
We have about 200 dentists in the Los Angeles area. That's where my focus has been. I know that there's certain other areas that we're planning on targeting and going to start launching some marketing for those here very soon.
And what procedures are you listing on there? Or does it not work that way? Do they just see that you're a provider and email you a question and say, hey, Tim, you're an oral surgeon. How much have all 4 of my son's wisdom teeth pulled out? Or
it's great because we have a lot of flexibility, and as the provider, you have the ability to basically accept or not accept treatment. So typically what would happen is you would go on to ZendyHealth, and let's say you needed an implant. You would say, for instance, you wanted to pay $1,200 for an implant, abutment, and crown. That then, that notification gets sent out to all the dentists who are in that region, based off a zip code, and whoever responds first and accepts that ad sends a message back directly to the patient that, yes, I'll accept that ad, call my office for, that price, call my office for an appointment. So obviously I'm not going to be responding to, tooth cleanings and basic exams. And in fact, in my profile, I can filter those out. So depending on what your specialty is or what your level of training or interest is, you can really fine tune that with the software.
So now, you, as an oral surgeon, can you do an implant in a crown, or could you only do the implant?
Well, I can suddenly become the gatekeeper. See, right now, restorative dentists are the gatekeepers in some respect if you're a specialist, because you're dependent on their referrals. But now I can go to the handful of my top guys and say, hey, I'm going to be placing an implant here. Can you do the crown for $400? So I know what the profit I want to make off of the implant procedure, and then I can pass the crown on to one of them for that. But I still am allowed to package it for that patient.
So what type of requests are you usually getting?
Most of them right now have been for basic extractions.
Extractions,
or
or
when
wisdom
patients are in
teeth?
pain, they may not be able to afford the extraction, or maybe the root canal, and they'll come through and say, I'll do an extraction for $250 or what have you. And that's the most frequent type that I'm seeing. We have seen some wisdom teeth bids. Most of those here in California, the UCR of most oral surgeons for impacted wisdom teeth in a general anesthetic is probably close to $2,000. So again, if I have an opening for some reason, I'm happy to do that case for $1,000, because in my practice, there's not a lot of overhead associated with that procedure, and it's better than having an empty chair.
And how long does the average oral surgeon tie up a room for a set of 4 wisdom teeth for $2,000 for general sedation?
I guess it depends on the time of year. In the summertime, when we're in demand, it's usually a case every half hour. So
Wow.
yeah, it gets pretty busy. This time of year, it slows down a little bit around the holiday time. We're usually planning on 1 an hour.
I have to tell you, after 28 years of doing this, looking at the 9 specialties, if I had to go back and be a specialist, oral surgery has always been the most fun. And I tie it to the instant gratification. Whereas like crown and bridge and veneers are, 2 appointments, and it just you get the tooth out, and I think you just get a big dopamine serotonin rush, because when it's out, it's victory. It's kind of like passing a finish line. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you set up for the right.
Definitely. It's a game that we always get to win. The
Yeah.
tooth loses and we win. And
I never thought of it
practice
like that. I
full
love that. Oral surgery is the game where, what would you say? Oral surgery is the game that what?
where we always win. We always win, and the tooth always loses. So, what's fun about oral and maxillofacial surgery too is I practice the full scope of surgery. So, when you do trauma, when you do, I do a lot of immediate implant placement. So someone could come in with a fractured central incisor, they'll walk out with an implant abutment and temporary, and they can't believe that they've gone from having a missing tooth to a complete beautiful smile in an hour. So I totally get what you say about the instant gratification. It's wonderful.
And how often do you get a patient sent to you where the dentist attempted an extraction and only got the crown out and had to refer him to you to finish the second half? Is that?
Probably more often than I'd like. I think that it's funny that quite frequently I'll take out erupted third molars, and on occasion they'll be humbling for whatever particular reason. The tooth might be ankylosed, it may not wiggle. You're there sweating, and I call these my GP my GP wannabes. It's like a general dentist will say, hey, those are pretty easy wisdom teeth, I might as well take them out myself. And that's usually when they get into trouble, because for whatever reason they may be a little bit more difficult to remove than they thought. And that's mainly what I see.
So is there a profile for that, the dentist that happened to? I mean, is it someone who's been out of school 5 years and never someone that's been out 20 years, or due to economic conditions, are people trying to do things in over their head, and it's across all spectrums of dentists?
I think it's probably a little of all of those components, but I would say that, economics has definitely factored into it. The same way they're bringing specialists into their office and giving them a percentage of production as their income. Everyone's trying to do well in dentistry, and it's a little bit more challenging right now, particularly in the congested areas. I mean, we have a lot of dentists in the Los Angeles area.
Well, actually, there's 202,000 total dentists, and 32,000 of them are in California. California has, I mean, it's no one's even close to that density, and you still have what, 5 dental schools?
Five or six. There's the Southwestern Dental School that
Yeah,
opened. So.
and then of course across the Pacific is Asia. That's the biggest, fastest growing. I mean, India and China alone. I mean, the so many dentists are coming. I mean, so yeah, that's got to be the toughest area to compete. And then on then something like Kansas or Iowa or Vermont would be the easiest one. So yeah, that's sink or swim out there in California.
Yeah, it's interesting because I do a lot of lecturing, and I'll lecture for other oral surgeon study clubs, etc. And I go out and I see their schedules, and so how much competition is there? Nobody, for 100 miles in some of the more remote areas. And it's like, wow, they kind of have a captive audience of referring dentists and of patients.
Yeah, and they also remind me a lot of my pedigree and everything. And back in Kansas, about half my pedigree is dairy farmers. And if you don't know anything about dairy farmers, you got to milk them sunrise and sunset. So a lot of those old man dairy farmers have never left their farm for vacation for decades. And you got to have kids, uncles, cousins, and it stresses everyone out. A lot of these oral surgeons in small towns that they don't even feel like they can leave.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like they can go take a cruise for a week. I mean, they're like the only guy in a town of 5,000, and the draw is 25,000, and they don't even know what would happen if they left for a week.
It's funny. I gave a lecture a couple years ago in Jasper, Indiana, and I had to take, it was planes, trains, and automobiles to get there. And there's one oral surgery practice, two surgeons, and they are stuck there all the time. And the only way they take vacation is basically that one of the corporations has a little private jet, and they'll try and fly out on that for a long weekend, and then they got to hurry back because they're so in demand.
Yeah, and those private jets are kind of like what you're talking about with name your own price. Now that they have those private jet companies, the costs on those have just, I mean, they just plummeted. I mean, I can rent a jet for $5,000 and fly me back home. I mean, it's amazing. Something that used to be only for multi-gazillionaires. Now, if it mean up to you for $5,000, I think it's $5,000 an hour. You can charter your own jet.
Yeah, and if they have a capacity of maybe 8 to 10 people, some of these you team up with another family if they have a lot of kids, and it's probably a little bit more economical that way.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, we did Visha for a half an hour, and then we're going to do you at the other end of the half hour. But and we're at 30 minutes, and I think you've explained ZendyHealth, and I've adored listening to you. I think you're a great guy. But the one thing I keep hearing is you keep lecturing for other oral surgeons. We put up 350 online courses on Dental Town, and they've been viewed over 500,000 times because so many of these dentists in these economic times, they don't want to fly across the country to go to CE. They don't want to shut down their office CE. But how long is your lecture?
I have several different programs. We do all day hands-on training. We do I talk about a lot of different components of
man. I would give anything to get your course on Dental Town. It's so hard to find an oral surgeon this time. I mean, almost all your oral surgeons are like, oh, I don't have time. And you're a rare dental unicorn to be an oral and maxillofacial surgeon talking to me. But my God, if you put that on Dental Town, I mean, the views on that from here to Kathmandu to Kazakhstan, I mean, I don't think we've ever put up a course that hasn't been downloaded in 200 countries.
Wow.
Do you think any chance we could get you to do that? You could.
Yeah. Well, let's maybe at another time discuss that and go into the ins and outs of how it works. And I have a whole series on all on four, on immediate provisionalization. Yeah, tons of stuff.
Oh my God, we'd love that. If you ever want to come back and do another podcast, not on the other half of ZendyHealth, but just want to come back and talk about oral surgery, we can do that too.
I'd love to, Howard.
Yeah, so come back and we'll do a whole hour of just you on oral surgery. And then if you got PowerPoint, slides, videos, or whatever, we can turn that into an online course really easily.
Oh, perfect. Great. That's very interesting. I'd love to.
Well, I think you're awesome. And like I say, I called you guys. You guys did not call me. Anybody of my listeners. It's like, this isn't a paid advertisement or whatever. I saw this business model. And I thought, this is neat. I want to talk to the founder. And then he was actually a plastic surgeon. And it's hard to get a plastic surgeon to talk to me because they just want to put a sack over my head. And but he said you were their dental guy, so I said, well, I want to get him on for the other half. And when they told me it's an oral surgeon, I said that's a snowball's chance in hell, and you actually did it. So I'm it was
It's
just
my
good all
pleasure.
around.
And you know, we're really privileged to be dentists, and you know, every day that goes by, I'm very thankful for having the ability to positively impact people's lives. That's why I tell people when I go out and lecture, it's like the power we have in our hands really, truly can change lives. And you know, Zendy's a little bit the same way. It gives patients the opportunity to you know, to get access to care that they may not otherwise be able to afford. I mean, I've had grown men. I had a patient last year came in that needed an implant for a central incisor, and I asked him, you know, how he lost the tooth, and it was reimplanted, and on and on. And he started crying. If only my sister wouldn't have made me go down the slide backwards. I mean, here you have an adult man, you know, lamenting what he did as a child. And you know, never knew that implants were you know, possible replacements there. And we really do have the ability to treat patients, and I think ZendyHealth is a great way to reach out to more of them, to market your practice, and actually serve humanity. So thank you. It's been a pleasure to be on with you.
You remind me of one story I got to tell you. You know, the only reason I joined the high school wrestling team and wrestled varsity all 4 years. You know what my goal was?
Tell me.
My goal was so that I could learn how to beat up my older sister, who then became a nun. Go figure that one out, huh? She beat the crap out of me for 20 years, for 15 years, so drove me to wrestling. But
that would make a hell of a cage match.
okay, well, thank you for your time. Like I say, I would love to have a online program from you, and if you want to come back and do an hour just on oral surgery, not on ZendyHealth, anytime, let me know.
Great. You have my contact information, right?
Okay, and my son, so does my son Ryan.
All right. Take care now. Have a great week.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.